In this tutorial, I'm going to be teaching you how to create a camera shake in Godot. We're going to be using an existing project from a previous tutorial of mine, which you can find in the GitHub link in the description. I'm going to try and keep this as quick as possible, so let's get into it. The first thing we're going to do is create a new script. I'm just going to call this utils. You can call it whatever you want. Name really isn't important. We're just going to give it a class name of utils so we can access it outside of or in any of our files. And we're going to do two things in here. We're going to create an enum called shake type, and then we're going to make a constant called shake configs. Jeez. It's of type dictionary. Okay. In our shake type, we're going to have, for this implementation, we're going to have 4. So we're going to call them small, medium, big, and explosion. Okay. And then in our shake configs dictionary, this is going to be a creation of how strong each of these are going to be. So I'm copying these in right now. You can, again, find these in the project. But what these are going to be doing are going to be setting the offsets, reductions, and frequencies for each shake type, and they're going to get stronger as we go up from small to explosion. The next thing we need to do is go into our camera script. So we're going to open this up. We're going to set up an export group called shake settings. And we're going to need 3 export variables inside of those. We have an export range, 0.0, 10, 0.1. Variable is going to be called trauma reduction. It's a float, default to 6.0. Our next one is going to be just a normal export variable called max offset, which is a vector 2. And it's going to equal a vector 2 with an 8.0 default. Our last one is going to be an export range, and it's going to be 0, 100, increments of 1. It's called shake frequency. It's a float, and we're going to default it to 45. What do I do here? I need a vector 2. Okay. Now that the export variables are complete, we need 2 other regular variables. We have one that's going to be a trauma, which is float. It's going to be a default of 0. We're going to need a setter and a getter function as well for this. So we're going to set up the value. We're going to assign trauma. It's going to be equal to a clamp float. Take our value, and it's going to be between 0 and 1. And for the get, it's just a simple return of our trauma. We also need to make a time variable, which is a float. And now we can go into our ready method, and if we have a tile map, then we're going to set up our camera limits. We're going to need a process method as well to continue here, which is going to check if we have trauma, and we're going to increment our time by delta times shake frequency. And we're going to set our trauma equal to the max float between trauma minus trauma reduction. Sorry for my insanely bad spelling. Times delta or 0. And then we're going to apply shake, which is going to be a method that we're going to make right now. We're going to apply shake, which is going to return void. We're going to create 4 variables inside of here. The first one is going to be shake intensity, which is a float. I'm going to take pow trauma we're going to get our offset x and offset y, which is also going to be a float. We're just going to take our max offset dot x times the shake intensity times sine time times pi times 0.7. We're going to make the offset y now, and it's going to effectively be the same thing here, except we're going to do this on the y, and we're going to increase 0.7 up to 1.3. Then we're going to create a variable called rotation, which is also a float. It's going to equal our offset x times 0.02. Now we can set our offset. It's going to be equal to a vector 2 of our offset x and our offset y. Our rotation degrees is now just going to equal our rotation. We're going to add we're going to add two more methods really quick. One's just going to be called add trauma. It's going to take in an amount, which is a float. It's not going to return anything. Trauma plus equals amount. We're also going to configure shake. Which is going to take in a shake type of utils.shake type. That's why we built that out previously, not returning anything. Again, var config, which is a dictionary, and it's going to equal utils.shake configs and our shake type. And then from this, all we have to do is set our max offset equal to the config offset. Trauma reduction equals to our config reduction, and our shake frequency is going to equal to our config frequency. So in order to demonstrate this, we're going to go to our test level and we're going to add a button. Inside of this button, we're just going to do on the text, we're just going to do shake. You know, that's all we want to do. We just want to make this thing, we just want to make the screen shake when I press it, okay? Now we need to go to our level script. And what we're going to do here, we're going to create an onReady variable of our button. And now we need to set up our button to be pressed. When on button pressed, we're going to need an instance of our player. If we have a player and player.getNode, just some safety checks, why not? Camera 2D. Get the camera, so player camera type. It's going to equal player.getNode camera 2D. Then we're going to go into camera.configure shake utils.shake type explosion. We're going to do one that's hopefully has a little bit more of an effect so you can see it. We're going to add trauma to our camera at 0.6. So now we should be able to play. All right, and there's your camera shake. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Let me know if you have any issues setting this up, and I'll be happy to address it in the comments.